Hi everyone, it's me B at Kelly Sunflower. So I thought I'd hop on today and do a flip through and first impression of a tarot book that was sent to me by Liminal 11 for review. So this is called A Poet's Tarot by Josep Miquel Sobrer. A Poet's Tarot. An inspired lyrical journey through the tarot by the late Josep, and then I think it's Pep is his nickname, Miquel Sobrer, has been an underground classic since the first English language publication in 1994. Sobrer's visionary writing leads you through the cards, offering a glimpse into the hearts of the tarot characters via the power of prose. Accompanied by the stunning art of the best-selling The Lunar Soul Tarot, this book makes it easy to immerse yourself into the world of the arcana. Both a captivating guide for deepening your understanding of the tarot and a poetic source of spiritual self-exploration, Pep's masterpiece will open the door for your own revelations. So this is a picture of Josep, 1944 to 2015, and he was a professor for Spanish, Portuguese and Catalan language. He worked for the department for Indiana University, Bloomington, for most of his academic career. He was also a translator of literature, an editor for the Catland Review. He was a passionate lover of rivers, climbing, mountains, and of course, poetry. So the kind of insert of this book looks very much like the full card in the Lunar Soul Tarot. So I do have two copies. I have the latest copy, which is in this nice kind of two-piece box. But the one that I tend to use the most is the first copy. My one's really well used. It came with this beautiful bag. So let's just take out a few cards. So if I look at the full card and compare it to the insert is a blown out version of the card, which I like. I like the fact that that it's blown out. It gives you more detail, and I wish the cards were like this. It would make the cards more delicious. Okay, so let's see how many pages there are in this book. Yeah, 311 pages. This book, I would say, is like an A5 diary size. So it was published by Liminal 11. So look at the contents page. So the introduction is by Francesca Sobrer, which I think is Pep's wife. It's got a preface on how to read this book. And then it goes into the 4 lesser secrets. So the lesser secrets, I'm assuming, are the minor arcana. The first lesser secrets is the suit of clubs, which I guess is wands. The second lesser secrets is the suit of cups. The third lesser secrets is the suit of swords. And the fourth lesser secrets is the suit of golds, which I like that. And I'm assuming that's the pentacles or the coins suit. The greater secrets is the major arcana, and it lists all the cards here, and it gives you the pages as well. Well, the general pages. Then the next chapter is called The Tarot Between Reason and Folly. And that chapter talks about the tarot. It tells you how to read the cards, how to choose a tarot set, the cards and the historical origins, the name tarot, other etymologies, the lesser secrets, which is the minor arcana, greater secrets, which is the major arcana, and a hypothesis for the tarot. But it talks about the obituary and work cited, which I'm guessing is the references. I also like that it's not on white paper. It looks like, if you look at the size, it looks like it's color coded. So let's see if it's color coded for each chapter. But I like the fact that the introductory is in this nice purple, because I find sometimes that white paper has a lot of glare. So let's have a read of the introduction. The first English language edition of the Book of Oracles, or A Poet's Tarot, was published in the spring of 1994. The book by Josep Miquel Sobrer was published by a vanity press. The Spitting Frog Press, also created by Pep. Pep wrote this book through our courtship. In fact, I have a very charming letter explaining his trepidations over our getting married. Even though I had to yet answer the question, will you marry me, on the back side of pages from an earlier draft of the book. And it's got here the 5 and 6 of cups. From the very start of our marriage, there were at least 4 cases of books in our basement, then 3 cases in the garage of our new home, a large space necessitated by the arrival of my 3rd child, Pep's first and only son, Mario. Then back in the basement went 2 cases when we moved to a smaller home, when our 2 older children, Greer and Ryland, had grown and were creating homes of their own. Life and its relentless demands left the cases more or less forgotten in our basement. Then Pep was contacted by Melissa Canova, the author of the Kitchen Table Tarot, who also wrote a blog about the tarot. Melissa wanted to interview Pep about his book. I remember Pep being very excited about the interview, and afterwards he felt encouraged to try selling the remaining books online, as well as to see about a second publishing of his book. Unfortunately, right on the heels of his talk with Melissa, it was determined that Pep's cancer, diagnosed 4 years earlier as metastatic colon cancer, had spread to his brain, affecting his motor skills so that he could no longer physically write. Within 5 months, on January the 1st, 2015, my beloved husband died. In classic Pep style, he wrote his own obituary a few months before he died. His obituary caused a small stir in Bloomington, Indiana, where we lived, and also in Barcelona, Spain, his home city, where a couple of the newspapers translated and published his obituary. The writer who writes his own obituary. In that obituary, Pep suggests that you read A Poet's Tarot. Suddenly, I was besieged by requests from friends and strangers. Could they borrow or buy a copy of the book from me? In the foggy days after Pep's death, I could not find those 2 cases anywhere. I went through every part of the house, and they were nowhere to be found. The handful of copies that I did find were quickly claimed by myself and our children to keep as our own. I searched through Pep's personal files, hoping to find the original manuscript, or at least a computer file. Instead, I found a copy of a letter Pep intended to send to a publisher to see about a second publication of his book. In that letter, he notes that the original manuscript was lost, but he could easily reproduce one if interest warranted the effort. So I began my own journey to retype and recreate the manuscript. I know that I could have scanned the book, but I wanted to honour Pep, who would have retyped over scanning. The typing and carefree reading brings you closer to the text. With the exception of a few small edits, the following book is the same as the original, the Book of Oracles, or A Poet's Tarot. Pep did not have a dedication for his first book, but I think if he could have rewritten his manuscript, he would have included one for the second publication. I think it would go something like this. For my son, Mario Henry Sobrer. Remember Hathika. And then she's signed it Frances Sobrer. So she talks about how to read this book. This is a book about the drama of self-awareness. Just as a person is made up of many, each of us being a brew of internalized characters, so is this book, made up by many voices from that drama. I call it pieces, oracles from the Latin oraculum, which derives from mouth, because in them I have allowed the voices of those many to speak through me, much as I imagined the ancient oracles interpreted the meanings of their gods. These oracles are organized following the structure and symbolism of tarot cards. They are my verbal interpretations of the cards. The value of the tarot is relative to the questions with which we approach the cards and to our willingness to see ourselves reflected in this unusual mirror. And so it is. With this Book of Shadows, which is a guide to finding these questions, just as much as an interpretation of the cards and whatever may lay behind them. The author recommends 2 ways of reading this book. One straight and one combinative. The straight reading follows the order of presentation and purpose, an organic architecture of the whole. It begins with the lesser secrets and moves on to the greater secrets. An essay at the end presents a rational view of the whole topic of the tarot and the book itself. The lesser secrets are divided, as are the cards, into 4 traditional suits. Clubs deal with the physical worlds, cups with the world of emotions, swords with the political world of the mind. Oh, I like that for the swords. And gold with the world of the spirit. Although less advisory, because they have to do with psychological archetypes rather than situations. The greater secrets are also presented in a traditional sequence. The other recommended way of reading is combinative and alliteratory. And for that, the reader will need a deck of cards. The idea here is to pick a random card or cards and read the correspondence oracle. Before you purchase a pack of tarot cards, you may start with a regular tarot deck, such as the ones used for playing poker or bridge. Do this. All you need to know is the following correspondence. What this book calls cups corresponds with clubs, cups to hearts, swords to spades, and gold to diamonds. The final essay explains in detail a method for drawing the cards and the reasons for the above dominations. Self-exploration should not be rushed, nor can it be approached mechanically. Ultimately, the tarot speaks through its images to your intuition. These oracles should also speak to your intuition, being verbal. They may readily stimulate the reader's imagination than the silent cards. Feel the freedom of your mind whenever you read them. To advance along the road proposed here, you must be flexible. Be open, be patient, and be playful. Let yourself be in this book and in the cards. Approach the oracle with your questions of your skepticism. Carry out a dialogue with them. These oracles should be seen as open messages, as the springboards to your own imagination, as the case for the descent into the deeper regions of yourself. Each one of these pieces for the lesser secrets has 2 distinct parts which complement each other dynamically. In some cases, the 2 parts are contrary options. In most cases, one part voices the advice the card has to offer, while the other presents a vision to help the reader's image. One word of caution: the tarot is not for the weak-hearted, and this book offers no sugarcoating. You must be ready to face issues such as death and evil in others as much as in yourself. You must be ready to defy comfort as well as folly. You must accept that the picture of yourself is not always a pretty one. Rise to your aspirations and sink in your fears. We all have inner monsters who we must meet if we want to grow, and there is something divine in all of us. The road may be difficult, but the arrival is worthwhile. You may start with the courage to face the unknown. May this book be your travelling companion. Then there's a final note here from Francesca. While reading this book, you may notice the rather perplexing absence of the tens. In his notes on the tarot at the end of the book, Pep points out that he used a Spanish pack of cards that only had 12 cards per suit. He added the queens back into the deck, but he left out the tens. My son Mario suggests that if you should draw a 10 and are looking for the corresponding oracle, then substitute with a page card. My daughter Gria, an aspiring reader of the tarot, supposes that the absence of the tens is because the 10 is about the 3 C's: culmination, complexity, and completion. She proposes that they are the maximum expression of their suit. What the culmination of the suit means to them personally, and Pep left them out for the readers to determine for themselves. I can hear Pep saying, "As you will." So the next chapter is a different colour, and this is the Lesser Secrets 1, which I think is the Cubs, which is the wands in the tarot deck. So this wands here is the Ace of Wands in the Lunar Soul Tarot, and again it's a nice stretched out picture. So I'm going to read you out this first card just to give you an idea of what is written for each card. So this is where we begin, with our power, with our bodies, feet well planted on the ground, weight distributed evenly, muscles without tension. Our strength is a living thing. As we breathe, the world around us comes into focus, as if everything we see were paying attention to us. We have found the present. And in the present, we have found our strength. This moment of gravitating suspension, this weightlessness, rootlessness, this ever-changing timeless now, this here that is everywhere, this balance on the crest of time. Hence our worries will crumble into past or future. Here our suffering becomes our experience, our needs become our wants, and our fears open up into our hope. Here our friends and our enemies reflect the aligned light of our sobriety, for it is here and now that we see them all, each with a will of his own, locked in the revels of their time, and we stand between yesterday and tomorrow, those two phantoms of nothingness. We feel our power, our reality, our hunger no stronger than our jaws, our heart no weaker than our challenge. This is the gift we call life. As you start on your new journey, you must learn to speak out. Speak out in honest language of your quest. Start with the word no. A simple, waffless, even joyful no. People may be beseeching you. Do not judge them, but do not rush to their rescue. Let them have their needs. You have yours. Think of your power as a hand holding a bat, and think you are hitting those balls tossed at you that belong elsewhere. Whack them away. Say no. To ill-doing, a good whack. To the enemy within you, a whack. To the enemy before you, no. to the fear of nightmare, a whack. Squeeze your club, lift it, squint a little as you fix your eyes on your objective, and as you deliver the blow, let out a roar of tension you have locked up in your chest. A stroke with a club to those who have deceived you, to those who have abused you, to those who have betrayed you. A good blow with the club. To those who have robbed you and have insulted you and have wounded you, to all of them, to each and one of them, young and old, men and women, a wallop with the club. Isn't that nicely written? So that's the writing style. So for each card, it's got the archetype from the Lunar Soul Tarot. So that would be the 2 of Wands in the Lunar, in the Tarot, 3 of Wands. So let's move on to the next suit, which is the Lesser Secrets 2, and this is the suit of Cups. And again, it's the same kind of layout. And it's like that for all the suits. So the Lesser Suit 2 is this kind of like turquoise green. The Lesser Suit 3, which is the Swords, is like this kind of like pinky kind of colour. And I do like it when my suits are colour coded. It breaks, for me, down the suits. This is my favourite ever 3 of Swords. I love this 3 of Swords cards. And the final Lesser Arcana suit is the Gold suit, which I think is a really good name for the Pentacles, and that's called the Lesser Secrets 4. And this is like a green colour. So after the Lesser Secrets, which are really, to me, philosophical poems, you go into the Greater Secrets, which is the equivalent of the Major Arcana. So the first card is the Fool. And again, if I show you the Full Tarot card, it's just an exaggerated version. Really gorgeous. So I'm going to read you out as well what he says for the Fool, so you can have an idea of what he writes for both the Lesser Arcana, which is the Minor Arcana, and the Greater Arcana, which is the Major Arcana, the Fool. No dishes to wash, no fences to paint, no bills to pay or schedules to keep. No self to tie the moments together, but simply burst of being in everything. This is the time of our innocence before the fall into adulthood. Why talk about the time in the past? The present belongs to no past and to no future, only to the selfless fall, a child of one's own fantasy, the ungreedy eyes of wonderment, or to the repeated timelessness of never, never. So the Fool walks on with a rose in his left hand and the stick with the handle of all he has in his right. All around him, times hold his life for ransom, but the Fool has no feelings for time, conscriptions. His moments are his, to be drunk with a child's carelessness attention, drunk with the timelessness of the now, but edged by the dog of his conformity. The Fool finds himself at the edge of his precipice. The sun is shining on his back, between the craggedness of the road that issues from the ferny hill and the certainty of his fall. This moment sparkles with lightness. So we have fallen and forgotten that life is a slippery series of oblations. We've striven to grab and shackle life. Our gaze avidly projected outwards, running after the objects of our desire. We held on to the anxiety of work and expectations of rewards and perhaps glory. And so we sought to leave everything tidied up, passed it into the scrapbook of our memory. We ask the sun, the clouds, the sky, and even the rose in his willingness to step back and remain there, orderly like the books on the shelves of a library, gloriously like a butterfly pinned just above its Latin name, beheaded like the statue of Nike. That has been our adult folly, our ego folly wish for the present to be the past, for the now to be eternity. In our struggle, we were to be sovereign among the many, not merely good, but better, forever, out of breath, in an aimless quest for performance. This is one thing ahead of the fall, the precipice of an assured fall, for indeed the child will crash into the gully of a sane existence, and no longer golden in the eyes of time, do his penance of ambition and remorse. Yes, the fall will fall into time and nothingness and remain there and less. Oh, I love the way it's written. Very poetic. So it does that for all of the major arcana archetypes. So moving on to the next chapter, the tarot between reason and folly. A traditionally participatory art of self-exploration through images, a full relative of the Neoplatonic philosophies from which it derives, or to which it relates. The tarot is inevitably met at first with skepticism. How can a random shuffling of cards produce any truth about ultimate matters? How can a set of innate objects claim knowledge of anyone's psyche or even spirit? How could anyone learn anything from a game of cards? The most learned of arguments would be insufficient to satisfy questions of this kind and dispel such doubts, and in any case dislodging such doubts from one's reason might not amount to obliterating them. I propose instead that the readers set aside their skepticism, at least for the time of reading this book, and use it to question the information that follows. Skepticism is a healthy, irrational response to the tarot, yet a good reading of the cards normally produces a sense of awe that will shake the convictions of the most doubting of Thomases. Baffling experiences produced by the art of divination are anything but rare. Many people have been amazed by the accuracy of the messages in the cards. To begin our approach to the tarot, then let us place ourselves between skepticism and awe, and approach the cards with neither mistrust or gullibility, such an intellectual position in which it does not matter what one believes, a position independent of credibility. The suspended of disbelief touted by the literacy critics may be the ideal starting point for our examination of the tarot. Whatever its origin and ultimate essence, the tarot is a system for self-exploration rooted in traditional pre-scientific thought. The tarot is like alchemy, is one of the human quests for the unattainable. And like alchemy, it sprang during a period when Western thought was more static than it is today. The fact that our age has by and large abandoned such quest and developed a scientific method based on experimentation, however, should not make us turn our backs to the grand pursuit for a knowledge that transcends all human limitations, including reason. Yet the tarot is not necessarily irrational, or is it as irrational as any artistic activity, as intuition, as mystic person. The tarot blends reason with the faith in the quest for an inner truth. It relates to other occult activities, particularly to astrology, numerology, and alchemy. insofar as they are all rooted in complex, idealistic, Neoplatonic and experimental methods, and insofar as they have all enjoyed favour and disfavour from the institutions in power. But it is my contention that the tarot does not need to be shrouded in mystery. It was fashionable during the 19th century to dress the tarot in the mumbo-jumbo of charlatanry, to turn down the lights, speak in whispers, wear robes, and be as befuddling as one would get away with. This mystique led to inflated claims about the power of the cards. The more obscure you were, the more you pretend to divine the future and reveal the darkest secrets from the past. A rather repressed era was eager for big thrills. Not everybody, of course, can become a good card reader or even a passable one by simply reading this book or any of all books on this subject. Like any other form of art, tarot takes a certain disposition, an openness, a flexibility in a short talent, like any other art that tarot will allow, improvement with experience and practice. So it talks about how to read the cards. There's quite a lot there. And it talks about how to choose a tarot set. So I'll just read out a little bit here, just a couple of lines. There are a number of beliefs attached to tarot sets. They should be kept wrapped in silk. Nothing in the room should be stored higher than the cards, and other injunctions of the nature. They appear to my mind as a worship of obscure, but they call attention to the simple fact that by surrounding your cards with some kind of ritual, you increase your enjoyment of the game. So that's a bit about the choosing the tarot set. Then it talks about the cards and the historical origins. The name tarot. So it talks about the Greeks and Hermes. Talks about tarot and a bit about Thoth there. The Lesser Secrets, it talks about, the German, French, English, Spanish and Italian translations. This is the Greater Secrets, which is the Major Arcana. This is the Creator's Opinion. Then this is the Hypothesis of the Tarot. Again, this is the Curator's Opinion. And then the Obituary of Josep Miquel Sobrer, September the 2nd, 1944 to January the 1st, 2015. Died on New Year's Day. And then obviously this is the bibliography, which just cites the work that's mentioned in this book. And that's the world card for the end completion. What a beautiful book. So what are my first thoughts or my first impressions? I actually really like it. I intend to use this book as a guidebook for my Lunar Soul Tarot, but this book can also be used as a reference book because it's not just about the Lunar Soul Tarot. It just happens to have the illustration, the contents page, so you can just jump to each chapter. I like the fact that this book is color coded because color means a lot to me. I also like that each of the archetypes in the tarot is described in poetry, and it's kind of modern, and it's also got a little bit of a philosophy kind of feel to it as well. It talks about both the positive and the negative aspects of the cards, so I like that. It's just a different way of looking at the tarot cards, but from a philosophy approach, which most tarot books aren't written in that way. And I'm a person that I do love poetry, so that makes it a bonus for me. And I've never seen a tarot book written like this. It's the first for me. I'm not saying that there's not any out there, but I've never come across it myself. So I'm looking forward to reading this book, because I do intend to read this book from head to toe, because it's quite a lot to read, you know, and I can't really give a review just on first impressions, but what I have seen, I do like. I will leave a link for this book in the description bar. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.